What's up, baseball fans? And of course, what's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to Talking Mets at Rob with a first of about 2 weeks of the first MLB free agent frenzy. We are back here with MLB free agent frenzy, and we are going to talk about who signed already, what are the latest rumors with Ohtani, Yamamoto, Aaron Nola being off the board, and everything else you want to talk about throughout the hour stream. So make sure you hit on that like button, guys, and make sure if you're a new subscriber of the channel, say what's up in the chat. Do not be shy, guys. All baseball fans are welcome here on this channel. This is an all-around MLB talk around free agency. We got the top 20 free agents on the screen. We got the latest signings with a couple of players off the board. Only one top 20 free agent player has come off the board, and that is Aaron Nola. We'll get into that in a little bit. So, guys, with that said, there's been some news about a little bit of clarity about Ohtani and when we think he might make a decision. Yamamoto is going to be having Zoom meetings or Skype meetings with teams that are interested in him, and then probably after the winter meetings, which is the 3rd to the 6th. So after that, which is about a week and a half away, after that, that's when Yamamoto is going to name the teams that are going to be finalists, and that's when most likely he will be meeting in person with those teams. And there's some speculation that Yamamoto is going to be in California with his agent and the agency, where teams have to come to him and present why he should sign with that particular team. So within a week, and I'm assuming the finalists are going to be named during the winter meetings, because this whole week is going to be Zoom meetings with teams that are interested. And then he's going to name the finalist for his services for 2024 and beyond. So I do believe that Shohei Ohtani is going to make his decision during the winter meetings. Again, the whole winter meetings setup, the whole idea around the winter meetings with Major League Baseball was to bring all the teams together, all the big free agents together in one hotel in a small area where teams can talk about trades, talk about big trades, talk about signings with players, meet with different big-time players during those winter meetings. And the whole point and the idea of the winter meetings was to have big signings and announcements and big trades, blockbuster trades, at the winter meetings. This is something that has not been the case over the last couple of years. It has been mediocre at best for the winter meetings over the last couple of years. The last time it was probably a lot of noise in the winter meetings, it was probably when the Marlins just built their stadium and they started to sign everybody like Jose Reyes and this guy and that guy, bringing in, big free agents to get people to buy tickets for their new stadium. That's the last time I remember, like, every day there was a signing during the winter meetings, and it was big time signing. There might have been a trade here and there, but it has been mediocre and it has been lackluster. It hasn't been excitement through the winter meetings. This is a prime opportunity for Major League Baseball to have like a LeBron type decision for Shohei Ohtani. All eyes are going to be on the winter meetings. A ton of free agents, a ton of pitching free agents are available, not just Yamamoto and Ohtani. Even though Ohtani's not pitching until 2025, the fact of the matter is the MLB winter meetings were set up to have big announcements, either trade or free agent signings. That was the idea. Major League Baseball has been pushing for these winter meetings and advertising it all over the place during this offseason. If you watch MLB Network constantly, they talk about it. I'm going to be doing winter meeting specials over those 3.5 to 4 days, and we're going to go over everything. We're going to watch it. We're going to listen to MLB Network when things happening, and we're also going to talk about all the news that's been coming out, if there's going to be things happening, if anything is going to happen when it comes to the winter meetings, but the winter meetings are extremely important to Major League Baseball. And what better than having the biggest name, the biggest known face of baseball now in Shohei Ohtani, universally known, big time Japanese population with Shohei Ohtani, with the American population of Major League Baseball fans. It's all going to come together. And I do think that, again, that's why you keep on hearing a little bit more and more each day that Ohtani is looking like he's going to make a decision during the winter meetings. And I think it makes the most sense for Major League Baseball. You're going to have the eyes on it, and you just hope it's not going to be another lackluster winter meetings, because it sucks that the only sport in North America, hockey, basketball, football, basically everybody signs within a week or two of free agency starting. And I'm not saying baseball necessarily has to do that, but what they should do, and I brought this up probably about a month or two ago, and we talked about it on the Roundtable podcast as well, was the fact that the Mets need to, the Mets, Jesus. Major League Baseball and Rob Manfred needs to, instead of worrying about lowering the pitch clock a couple of seconds more, they should have a set period of free agent signings and then have like a month or even the whole offseason to do trades, but have a set couple of weeks, because there's a ton of free agents. We understand that with Major League Baseball. They need to be a couple of weeks, say, start it during the winter meetings. December 3rd, which is the winter meetings day that it starts, the 3rd until the end of December is when free agents can sign. That's what they should do. At least the top 25 free agents, or just do all free agents. And that's where I think Major League Baseball should go to, because you can't have all this going on and then not really knowing, like, you have Shohei Ohtani is using it against teams if things get leaked out about him talking to them. And then you have Yamamoto not really wanting to do a stadium tour or anything like that. And it's like, come on, like, do what you got to do, meet with your teams, have interviews, let them present what they need to present to get you to come to their team, and let's sign. It's a cat and mouse game that doesn't really need to happen. The Aaron Nola signing came out of nowhere. I mean, unless you're in Philly listening to sports talk radio over there, maybe they have an inkling of that, but you didn't hear nothing. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Aaron Nola signs a 7-year deal with the Phillies to remain in Philadelphia. It's kind of weird, right? And then, you hear, you didn't really hear much at all. And it's like, it's kind of annoying because the reporters have nothing to report. They're speculating just as much as we're speculating. Yeah, they got people that might be in the know, but that might be people in the know that might be leaning towards a particular team. So obviously they're going to put some out there for that particular team, even if it's good or bad. I mean, even Howie Rose, came out and tweeted something about Ohtani news today, and everybody was like, oh no, what the hell's going on? And then he backtracked, and it's like, all right, what are we doing here? There's too many times where reporters are pulling stuff out of their asses because there's nothing to report. And you can't have a daily MLB hot stove show on MLB Network and constantly have these content on YouTube when it comes to MLB writers, constantly coming on and saying the same thing over and over again, and then putting something out there that might mean actually something, but it's not necessarily 100% true, but they're putting it out there because they might have heard something. It really does not make any sense in baseball sense, because you got NFL in full form in the middle of their season, you got the NBA season starting, the NHL season's going on their way, and Major League Baseball is just like, okay, well, Ohtani might sign during the winter meetings. Yamamoto's going to hopefully sign after the winter meetings. And then what? Everybody else has to wait? It makes no sense. And they need to do better, because Major League Baseball can be front and center for at least a month, right? If you do free agent signings from the start of the winter meetings until the end of December, you have all that time where you can have the eyes focused on Major League Baseball, even with football going on and hockey and basketball. The eyes will be on baseball because there can be signings almost every day within that month's time frame that you set, and it makes sense. Why they don't do that, I don't know. It's intriguing. It gets fans excited. It gets fans even upset, to be honest with you. Like, oh man, my team didn't get this guy. I really wanted this guy, right? It's kind of like if you get, say if the Mets get Yamamoto, for example, the Mets get Yamamoto, Met fans are going to be excited. But you know what? The next signing, let's say if the Yamamoto signs on December 8th and he signs with the Mets. I mean, the Mets might actually not make another signing that is actually meaningful to their roster until Christmas. Like it's stupid, and it's just the way that Major League Baseball, they try to expand their offseason to the point, and there's so many different important dates during the offseason, the Rule 5 draft, the draft lottery, arbitration, stuff like that is important during the offseason that, you can put in a particular month. You can make the month of November with the Rule 5 and the draft lottery and arbitration and everything like that. And giving guys qualifying offers. All that can be in November. And then once December rolls around, the winter meetings start the first week of December, you have all that time to do free agency because the qualifying offers are already accepted or not accepted. And then you got those guys becoming free agents. So December should be the month where the most activity should happen. But let's be honest, there's going to be a couple of guys on this top 20 that you're looking on your screen right now and might be into January and not signed with a team yet. And some might not even be on a team by February, a few weeks or a couple of weeks before, spring training games actually start. So that's where I am when it comes to Major League Baseball. They need to do better with the free agent period, and it just makes sense. And that's the way it should be. And again, the whole point of the winter meetings is for things to happen. They bring all the teams together, all the big free agents together, at least the top free agents together in one hotel for things to happen, not things to not happen. Major League Baseball and teams spend a lot of money to go there. And not saying they're crying over spilt milk, but let's be honest. That's the whole point of the winter meetings. We all thought it was a great idea when they first started this. Like, oh, that makes so much sense. Get everybody in the same hotel. Everybody's meeting in different rooms. Reporters running around the hotel trying to find the latest news that's going on with teams making trades and free agent signings. Oh, we saw this player, hanging out or going into, the Mets, hotel room or something like that. Yeah, or the conference room. And like, that's the whole point. That's the excitement. MLB winter meetings for the first couple of years was a lot of fun. And then it starts slowly getting worse and worse. And it's like, why have it if you're not going to have big signings or big trades at that moment? I mean, you had the GM meetings where you heard about a couple of trade rumors here or there with teams when GMs got together. And it was cut short, the GM meetings, because of a bug going around. But like, the winter meetings are important. And they should be more exciting than they actually have been. So the latest signings over the last, since free agents started was obviously the big one was Aaron Nola signed a 7-year deal to remain with the Philadelphia Phillies. That basically came out of nowhere. I heard no reporter talk about Aaron Nola going back to the Phillies at all. So as much as they have been, quote unquote, reporting, and I really got on a lot of them yesterday for their nonsense pulling out of their ass reporting without doing their damn homework or doing their jobs, why didn't we hear nothing about the Phillies at all? From even the best, no matter who you think is the best person to go to for information in regards to, breaking news or, news that somebody might be signing soon. We didn't hear that anywhere until the deal actually came up. Other than that, it's like, what were you trying to find out here? You clearly weren't doing your jobs. How every baseball writer did not have one inkling that Aaron Nola was close to signing with the Phillies and that other teams offered him more money and more years in a contract offer. How did nobody know that? That makes no sense to me at all. So somebody's not doing their job, or they're just lazy. And I go back to that because I think it is laziness. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that, I'm going to give you, bullshit on a stick and, come up with, stuff out of my ass and not say where I got it from. If I find something and I'm like, oh, that's interesting, I'm going to bring it up to you guys and I'm going to say who said it. I'm not going to just say, hey, guys, this and this, Ohtani's going to sign with the Mets. I got that inkling. That's my little secret that I found out from somebody I know and not tell you who it's from. Like, that's just stupid. Well, Bryce, that's what we've been talking about for the last 18 minutes. When it comes to moves start picking up. It's supposed to start picking up right after Thanksgiving and right into the winter meetings, because that's the point of the winter meetings. So I don't know, because and nobody knows, and that's the problem with MLB free agency, right? The whole point of the winter meetings, again, December should be the best month for all the free agents to sign. Teams know what they need. Teams know what player, if the team had a player that had a qualifying offer waiting for them, they know if they accepted it or not by now. Everybody knows what they need. We know what the Mets need. The Mets need starting pitching, number 1, bullpen, number 2, and outfield, number 3, maybe even, a third baseman or whatever it is. We know the order what our team needs, right? Our team needs first pitching in the rotation and then bullpen, and we'll see what else happens after that, right? Every team has their list of number 1 things they need to do in a list. It's just that simple. I don't see why they make it so hard, right? If we know there's only a handful of teams that can afford Ohtani's huge contract that he's probably going to get, 5, maybe 6 teams, maybe I'm pushing it a little bit, 5 or 6 teams. Why is that taking so long? He should be meeting with them already, and a decision should be made already. Like, I don't see what's so hard on making that decision when you only got a handful of teams. And I'm not talking about, if you have 15, 16 teams, okay, fine. But why can't more free agents say, okay, these are the teams that are interested in me. I don't want to go there. I don't want to go here. Players got preferences. They got families and stuff. So I get that. If you got 10 teams after you, there's no reason why it should take you 2 months to figure out, okay, I don't want to go to these 4 teams, but these other 6 teams I'm interested in. Okay, great. So narrow it down. Why this takes so long is just stupid, because it's rare that, another team's going to come with an extra $100 million to surprise you. It doesn't happen. Maybe an extra year on a deal and an extra $20, $25 million, but nothing like, if the Dodgers offer Shohei Ohtani 10 years, $500 million, maybe the Mets might go to 550, but would they go to 600? Probably not. So it's like, there's nothing to, binge off of one other team for so much more money. That's why I just don't understand. Like, that's why I think Ohtani's going to sign during the winter meetings, because that is their moment, Major League Baseball's moment. That is their time. They put the winter meetings together for this particular moment. The Shohei Ohtani should be like the LeBron James decision situation. They need to do the exact same thing, right? There should be no reason why Ohtani should be not signed with the team by the end of the winter meetings. Every team, every executive for every team that means something to their organization is at the winter meetings. Big free agents are going to be at the winter meetings. What the hell else are you doing besides meeting with teams and going out to eat? That's it. Bryce, I hope so. So the signings that happened so far was the Phillies signed Aaron. The Cardinals made 2 signings with Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson. They got a ton of innings eaters in their rotation. A couple of guys that aren't great, but they pitch a lot of innings. So that's where the Cardinals look like they're going. I don't think they're going to make any big signings. pitching wise, it's looking like they're gonna, roll it out with a lot of guys that have good starts every now and then, but give you a lot of innings, and that saves your bullpen. So maybe the Cardinals are going to look at going after bullpen a lot more this offseason, even though their lineup should be pretty damn good. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Cardinals do after their really terrible season. The Chicago White Sox signed Paul DeJong, the Mets killer, and the Atlanta Braves signed relief pitcher Reynaldo Lopez, who the reports that came out once they signed him to a 3-year deal was there's a pretty good chance that Reynaldo Lopez is going to be in the rotation for the Braves going into 2024. So yeah, Mike, I agree with that. But again, it was a spectacle. But obviously the decision was just about LeBron James. The MLB winter meetings is set up for that particular reason, for players to make decisions, for teams to make big trades. In particular, to have a lot of the free agents signed during that time. Baseball lover, I would like that too. I definitely would like that too. So, when we look at the free agent markets, right? Yeah, explosive. I'm not shocked that the Yankees haven't been linked to Ohtani at all, because I never thought that they would be willing to spend that type of money. I just, especially when Ohtani's not going to pitch in 2024. Now, if he was able to pitch in 2024, I think the Yankees might be in it more than we're hearing. But again, that doesn't mean the Yankees are not in it, right? I mean, honestly, I don't, we haven't really heard the stories or reports about the Mets really being in on Ohtani, except with Howie Rose popping up and it got everybody excited. But I always thought the Mets would be in on Ohtani. I'm sorry. I don't believe one bit that Steve Cohen, the richest owner in baseball, is not going to attempt to try to lure or make a big offer to Shohei Ohtani, the best free agent probably since free agents started. Like, I find that hard to believe. Am I saying that the Mets are going to get Ohtani? No, I don't believe the Mets are the favorites. But that doesn't mean, there was a lot of players, and there was a lot of players that I didn't believe the Mets would ever be favorites to get, and they either ended up getting them or gave him a contract, and obviously it didn't work out medical wise, or the guy took less money to go somewhere else. Like, Kevin Gausman is not a big time, a major free agent, but he was a Cy Young Award winner. He took less money to go to Toronto. You can't do anything about that, right? So, and I always go back to Scherzer, because it really was important that Scherzer actually said on MLB Network a week before he signed with the Mets was that he loves pitching with the Dodgers, and he wanted to be on the West Coast. He felt comfortable with him and his family on the West Coast. And a week later, he signed with the Mets. Why was that? And it was well known that Steve Cohen found out that the Dodgers were giving him 2 years for similar money that the Mets actually paid him. And he got Scherzer into the room with Boris and says, "What will it take for you to come to the Mets?" He says, "Give me a 3rd year." And the Mets didn't want to just give a guaranteed 3rd year, so they gave him a player option. So if he performed well in 2023, he would have probably just opted in, or even, became a free agent again. But with that type of money on the table, he probably wouldn't get that. And he opted into that deal. And now he's a Ranger. So, people are underestimating Steve Cohen still. He made the trade for Francisco Lindor. Nobody knew about it until it actually happened. He signed Lindor before he became a free agent. He let Nimmo test free agency and still gave him the best offer. And it's like, and in the middle of the night, he basically stole Carlos Correa from the Giants, even though it didn't end up Carlos Correa becoming a Met, at the end of the day, but it still happened. And you see I would say the comfortability of Steve Cohen and Scott Boras. Scott Boras is not stupid, and Steve Cohen is not stupid either, right? Scott Boras knows before he puts ink to paper on any of his big free agents, even if that's Ohtani or anybody else, or even Juan Soto if he gets traded to a team. Every one of these free agents that Scott Boras has that the Mets could be linked to, Scott Boras is going to make the final phone call to Steve Cohen. And again, Shohei Ohtani doesn't have Scott Boras as a client, but what I'm saying is the fact that if Ohtani, and I've said this again, Ohtani is going to get the most money. All right, he's going to a team that gives him the most money. I find it hard to believe that he's going to take $60 million less to go to the Dodgers. It makes no sense for him to do that. The biggest free agent in baseball history, when it comes to free agency, is going to take less money. That does not bode well for the union, and that gives every team the upper hand in any negotiations with any other free agent. Because you can go to any free agent and Shohei Ohtani says, look, I offered Shohei Ohtani $550 million. If you're Steve Cohen, you say this. I offered Shohei Ohtani 10 years, $550 million. He went to the Dodgers for $500 million. If he can take less, you can take less. And that's going to become huge problems for players who try to get the most money. And now they're not getting what they actually want because teams aren't budging, because the best free agent available took a lot less money to go where he wanted to go. Now teams are going to use that example every single time. Baseball does not want that. Major League Baseball players and their union does not want that. Yeah, CD, I agree with that. And I don't see why would anybody be shocked? And the silly thing is that more people are more inclined to think that the Mets are not at least top 5 or at least top 3 in getting Shohei Ohtani. The only other team that I can see that can make a huge push is the San Francisco Giants, other than the Los Angeles Dodgers. Obviously, the Dodgers, because, well, it's an hour away from where Ohtani played, right, in Orange County. So the Giants, because they have that huge Asian population in San Francisco, right? Obviously, it's still California. He's got to move a couple hours north in San Francisco, but I don't see any other team. Like, maybe the Cubs are going to make a big push, but if people who only say, oh, he's not going to the East Coast, why would he go to the Cubs? It's not that far. It's not west anywhere. It's the middle of the country. Probably a little northeast of the country. It's right in the middle of the country. So, like, if you're going to say, oh, the Cubs are going to be a sneaky team going after Ohtani, well, why would he go there when everybody who's saying, oh, it's the West Coast, it's the West Coast, and now it's the same reporter who reported about the Cubs? You're contradicting your own report from not too long ago. How about just being tell the truth if you're a reporter and say, hey, we don't really know. The fact of the matter is, we all know what Ohtani wanted when he came from Japan. He wanted to be closer to home. Closer to home is the West Coast. There has been no reports that Ohtani specifically said, I want the West Coast because I want to stay closer to home. He has not said that personally anywhere. That's the whole point. Because if that was the case, why would he even bother with any team east of Texas? Why? It makes no sense. It makes no sense. I agree, right, Ring. I think the Giants are desperate. But, again, desperate teams the Giants were extremely desperate last year as well. They were coming, only a few years ago, they won 100 and, they won the division, won 107 games and won their division. And then they had a bad season and they came into the offseason of 2023 with, a chance to get Correa and Aaron Judge. No, they had Aaron Judge supposedly, and then they didn't. And then they had Carlos Correa. There was a press conference happening, and then it didn't happen. So the Giants were desperate last year. That doesn't mean they're going to get their guy. Yeah, right wing. But you know what? I can also say the Mets are a desperate team as well. The Mets are a team. Remember, the Giants almost made the playoffs. They fell off at the end of the year, but they were still in it in the middle of September. The Mets weren't. So I can tell you that the Mets are more desperate than the Giants. Right? They won 75 games this year. They made huge trades to get back prospects at the deadline. There's no, for a team that had World Series aspirations, I can say that they're more desperate than the Giants. The Giants weren't a championship contender, especially after the offseason that they missed out on. So I wouldn't say the Giants are desperate. If the Giants don't get Ohtani, that doesn't mean that they can't still have a good offseason. Like it's I could say the Mets, who seen the Phillies go to back-to-back NLCSs and a World Series appearance, and seeing the Braves dominate the division and the Marlins make the playoffs, you can't tell me that the Mets can't be desperate. I'm not saying the Mets are desperate in the sense where if they don't get Ohtani, why play the 2024 season? It's all over. Well, that's not the case, right? The Mets can still get Yamamoto, get 2 middle rotation guys, and sign a DH bat, whoever you might want it to be, who's a quality bat that can help out this lineup. And there's no reason why the Mets can't win 90 games and make the playoffs. Right? The Mets were only, the Arizona Diamondbacks won with 84 wins and made the World Series. So yeah, I understand, right wing. The Mets have more names than the Giants, but the fact of the matter is that I don't look. Do you really think Ohtani's going to go to the Giants, knowing that team? I mean, it's Ohtani and nobody else, right? I think that's a huge problem. And again, if you're going to talk about names, at least Ohtani, if he goes to the Mets, he actually has Alonso, Lindor. He actually got known guys, all-stars on their roster. Big guys. One of the best power hitters in baseball, and Alonso, one of the best shortstops in baseball, and Lindor. You go to the Giants, who's their big name? So does Ohtani want to be a guy who is the only big star on that team and be fourth in your division? Or and this also goes if he goes to the Dodgers. At least they have Mookie Betts, right? They got Mookie Betts, right? Who's a mega star. So it's yeah, I agree. Easy, I agree. I agree they're a desperate team. But again, if we're talking about Ohtani and all the continued reports saying that he wants to go to a team that has a chance to win, that's a contender. The Giants aren't that even with Ohtani. I mean, the Angels have had Ohtani and Trout for how many years now, and they were terrible. I don't see the Giants spending all that money for Ohtani and make more major moves to get more stars in here. Like, I just don't understand how that's going to work. If that's the case, he'll just go to the Dodgers because it's a better situation. Mike, there is connections. The connection is he can get the most money from Ohtani. And if you believe there's no connection, you're not paying attention at all. You keep on saying it, Mike. The fact of the matter is, if you don't think Ohtani is a connection with the Mets, or the Mets haven't been connected to Ohtani, again, every single day you're hearing more and more that all of a sudden you're starting hearing teams closer and closer to the East Coast. You heard the Cubs the last couple of days. You heard the Red Sox. You heard the Mets. Like, there is teams that are reported each and every day that are closer and closer to the East Coast. You know why? Because there's more teams on the East Coast that can also spend a ton of money as well. And again, you don't think Ohtani is connected to the Mets, that's fine. But you're also not paying attention to what Steve Cohen is capable of either. Because if Ohtani was never going to take an interview or, a tour or whatever it is that players do to meet up with a team to see if they want to sign there, you don't think Ohtani's going to do that? Like, again, I'm not saying the Mets are the favorites. I'm not saying that. Yeah, right, Ring. I don't necessarily believe that. I always believe that Steve Cohen has a plan A and a plan B. Mike, again, that's wrong. That the Mets are in on Ohtani. They are in on Ohtani. Again, Ken Rosenthal just spoke today on MLB Network. I'm sorry, yesterday on Friday on MLB Network. And they talked about the Mets being a team that will be interested in Shohei Ohtani because of the Steve Cohen money. And again, if you don't believe, Mike, I tend to agree with that. I do agree with that. But again, this is where plan B comes in. If Steve Cohen doesn't get Yamamoto, their top target, we all know that's their top target. You don't think the Mets and Steve Cohen are going to be like, all right, we lost on a Yamamoto. We got to get Ohtani here. We need a big guy here. And then you work your way in a trade situation now for a guy like Dylan Cease, Corbin Burns, Tyler Glasnow to get a top-line starting pitcher with Kodai Senga. Because that's going to be plan B. Again, Mike, why is Ohtani not going to come here? That's the problem. You're not giving me a reason. And don't tell me, oh, he prefers the West Coast, because that's a lazy type of comment and reporting. That's what you heard from reporters for months. And then all of a sudden, a month later, the same reporters who's saying, oh, he ain't leaving the West Coast, is the same reporters that brought up the Mets, the Yankees, the Red Sox, and the Cubs. Well, Mike, that's fine. You don't have to believe that. And again, I'm not saying the Mets are the favorite. You guys are miscuing my words. I'm not saying the Mets are the favorite. I do believe the Dodgers are the favorite. But to believe that the Mets aren't a top 3, top 4 team candidate to land Shohei Ohtani, that's silly. Yeah, Steve Cohen is not going to be a guy that is not going to make an effort to sign Shohei Ohtani. Again, would that happen? I don't think so. I don't think it's going to happen with the Mets. But to say that the Mets and Steve Cohen is not going to make a big offer for the best free agent in free agent history is crazy to me. You are really not paying attention to anything Steve Cohen has done, or you just don't care to want to know or pay attention to. Every year, Steve Cohen has shocked the baseball world every single year as being an owner. He shocked the world by trading for Francisco Lindor. Nobody thought that was going to happen. To make the first big move in Steve Cohen's era. Then the following year, he signs Scherzer. He trades for Chris Bassett. He makes a couple of signings with Marte, Escobar, and Canha, and within an hour of each other. And then last year, signs Verlander. Like, these are things every single year. Yeah, Mike, that might be true. That might be true. It's all bullshit because you don't want to believe it. That's the problem. Too many people are not listening and watching and seeing the exact thing that the Mets did the last 2 seasons when it came to Max Scherzer and when it came to Francisco, the last 3 seasons with Lindor and Max Scherzer. You heard crickets until the final couple of moments when those deals happened. Don't think for a second. This, and you can tell it. I can tell you this right here. The New York Mets will be the top 3 teams, top 3 finalists to land Shohei Ohtani. I can guarantee that, because you can't tell me for a second that Yamamoto. If the Mets sign Yamamoto, do I think they're going to be more in on Ohtani than not? I probably not. But don't think for a second he's not going to make a big offer, because he will. Yeah, Mike, you might think he's following Stern's lead. Okay, that's fine. Stern is running things, but we all forget, and it's amazing how people forget. Who did everybody watch the WBC? All the talk was Steve Cohen was in Japan during the qualifying round. In Japan on the field. What do you think he was doing? Watching a baseball game? Come on, guys. You got to read the tea leaves a little bit. I'm sorry. If you don't believe the richest owner in baseball is in on Ohtani, again, not saying he's the favorite. Not saying the Mets are the favorite. I'm not saying that. You guys still don't listen. Again, Mike, I never said they were all in on Ohtani. Again, you're putting words in my mouth. No, Mike, Steve Cohen can do whatever he wants. If David Stern says, I don't think we should get Ohtani, Steve Cohen goes, F yourself, go get Yamamoto, and I'll take care of Ohtani. He did it every single time. He did it when Billy Epler was in bed with Carlos Correa. Overnight. Like, it didn't happen, but that was more medical reasons. Cohen was not afraid of spending the money. Right? Overnight, Steve Cohen in Hawaii was able to land Carlos Correa and steal him from the Giants overnight with Billy Epler sucking his thumb in bed. And they asked Billy Epler the next day, did you know this was going on? No. I got a call from Steve Cohen that it was going down. So don't tell me Stearns is leading the way. Yeah, he's leading the way, but don't think Steve Cohen doesn't have control over every situation. Mike, that's silly. Of course, Stearns. Do you realize that Cohen's his boss, right? Come on. Jay, I agree with that. The Dodgers do. But again, if you keep on saying the Dodgers have money to get 3 megastars, the Mets do too. Like, it's silly to me. Like, I'm not saying the Mets are the favorites. Again, you keep on thinking that I'm saying that, and I'm saying the exact opposite. The Dodgers are the favorite. 2 reasons: location and money, obviously. But again, there was public knowledge, public conversations with players saying they wanted to be here. Again, I always go back to Max Scherzer. Max Scherzer was the best pitcher on the market when he was a free agent. All he talked about was the Dodgers and wanted to stay on the West Coast. Over and over again. You had idiot reporters on MLB Network saying, yeah, Scherzer really is going to I have no inkling that he's not going to sign back or go anywhere else but the Dodgers. If he doesn't go with the Dodgers, it's definitely going to be a West Coast team. What happened? Out of nowhere, Steve Cohen comes out all of a sudden. Oh, the Mets are close to signing Scherzer. Huh? What? I was live when Scherzer signed his contract with the Mets, when he signed with the Mets. We were out of our minds because nobody thought it was going to happen. The Mets needed pitching, but we didn't think it was going to be Scherzer. Again, at the time, Scherzer was still a very good pitcher. Nobody knew the colossal dog shit he was going to be. Again, the easy, lazy narrative is to say the Dodgers and put it to the side because these reporters don't want to actually do their jobs. Again, over the last 3 weeks, all we heard, the Dodgers are the favorite. You heard a little bit about the Rangers. You heard the Giants, obviously. All you're hearing is the West Coast teams. All of a sudden, more and more, I heard Sherman say it, Rosendahl say it, Heyman say it about the Cubs, how they can be a sneaky team with Ohtani. And then you say, hey, don't count out the Mets. We know Cohen's big pockets. Again, are the Mets the favorite? No. But to consider them not in on Ohtani is just lazy. You're just not paying attention. Every single year, Steve Cohen has been on a major free agent or a major player who is on the trade block. Every single year. You think he's going to not make an offer? A big offer might not be enough, but a big offer to the best free agent that ever has been a free agent in free agent history. You're just not paying attention to what he's been doing. Yeah, well, Mike, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with scaling down. If you get Yamamoto, that's the start of Plan A for the Mets. And again, I never ever said that Yamamoto wasn't priority number one. He is. But if the Mets don't land Yamamoto, I'm telling you right now, if you don't think Steve Cohen is going to be going to that pissed off type of Steve Cohen, because remember, after Steven Matz gave him the middle finger and says, "Oh, I'm going to St. Louis," when he thought he had to deal with Steven Matz, not too long after that, he traded for Chris Bassett. And that's the whole idea around Steve Cohen. Steve Cohen doesn't like to lose. He doesn't like to lose on the field. He doesn't like to lose in this situation in the baseball world. Well, Dolan is never in on the Rangers calling the shots. And the last time I checked, the Rangers haven't won a Stanley Cup since '94. All right, so let's not talk about the Rangers. Wait, you think the Knicks are having success? Okay, they haven't had success in 20 years until the last couple of years. But here, the one thing Dolan does is he's not afraid to spend as much as possible with the salary cap with those teams. Again, if there was no salary cap, Dolan would be on every big name free agent possible in hockey and basketball. The reason why Dolan isn't as much of a problem or as a guy who just give money, and get anybody you need is because of the salary cap. We're talking about a sport that is not capped with salary. It's a big difference. Again, where was the Knicks the last 20 years? The Rangers haven't won a Stanley Cup since '94. I was 7 years old. I mean, come on. Like, we're talking about the successive teams that basically haven't won shit in a long time. And oh, by the way, the Mets haven't won since 1986. And Steve Cohen obviously knows that. No, hey David, listen, I have no problem people disagreeing with me. That's not, the whole point of this, and the whole point of sports and conversations is to have disagreements. Like, I have no problem with that ever. Like, I don't mind that you disagree with me, but it's silly to think that the Mets aren't in on Ohtani. Is Ohtani number one priority for the Mets? No. But if the Mets land Yamamoto, is it less likely that Ohtani will come, that the Mets will go hard after Ohtani? Nah, probably not. But to think that he's not going to make a major offer is silly. The richest owner in baseball, who can't stand the majority of the owners in baseball, Cohen, who constantly gets probably a shit full of nonsense from owners, you don't think he's going to say, hey, don't F with me, don't fuck with me, because I have no problem going to $600 million on Ohtani. Because Cohen's crazy enough to actually do that. He goes, look at last year. And I don't know if you guys remember, but last year when reports are coming out that the Mets are probably not going to, remember, the Mets were at the 290, after they signed Verlander, they were around the $290 million mark. When it came to, before Verlander, they were around 290 million dollars with their salary cap, with their payroll. And all you heard on all the networks, all the reporters, I don't see the Mets going over $300 million. And then what happened? They had a $330 million payroll, and with the tax, it was like 360. Don't underestimate Cohen. Like, every year, this guy has made a big signing or a big trade since he's been owner. Okay, Robert, that's fine. But if he's going to a team like, let's see, say if he goes to the Giants, right? They've been successful, but they haven't been successful lately, right? And again, you were talking about the Dodgers. They won in 2020. Again, please, could we stop talking about the 2020 championship? All right. That's more of a farce than anything else. Can the Dodgers actually win a real world championship? Right? Before that, right? And again, there's teams, right? You hear a lot of teams, right? I mean, come on. What if you think that a player is not going to go because of 1986 is silly? Because why did Max Scherzer come? Because of money, right? Why did Verlander come? Because of money. Why do most players come to any team? Because of money. Money talks every single time. Every single time. No, Robert. You see, that's where you're wrong. Again, this is where people comment and don't do any type of research on Cohen at all. Cohen has a hedge fund. He owns the Mets. Any loss when it comes to the Mets are tax write-off for his company that he makes billions of dollars on. That's where you're saying he's not losing money. He loses money. It's called a tax write-off when he does his taxes when it comes to his hedge fund. So he never loses money. Yeah, he loses money in the baseball sense. But overall, he doesn't lose money because they become tax write-offs because of his hedge fund. When you make more money somewhere else and you lose money elsewhere, it benefits you as tax write-offs when it comes to the hedge fund that he makes billions of dollars on. Again, you got to do your homework. Again, come on here and talk facts. Give me shit that makes sense. You didn't do your research, and then you feel silly when you're talking all wrong and I call you out. I understand that, Robert, but you know what? His biggest tax write-off for his hedge fund is the Mets, $1 billion company. Right? If you didn't hear what happened not too long after the World Series ended, where he paid off he paid off the rest of the debt that the Wilpons left him currently when it came to the Mets organization, where he used that debt. Where is all that debt going to? It's going back into the team. He talked about that, and many people around him talked about that. I'm not talking about buying a painting and using it as a tax write-off. He loses money, which he knew he was going to lose money the first couple of years because the Wilpons ran this team into the ground and this organization and ordered debt and all the loans they had to take after the Madoff scandal. Oh, Robert, he said he's not going to spend. Oh, right. He said that. He said that to Scherzer. Again, another lazy take. Come on, pay attention. You got to pay attention. Yes, he's not losing money. He's losing money in the baseball sense with the Mets because the Mets were a poorly run organization with the Wilpons. They took out a ton of loans. You remember, guys? He took out a ton of loans. The Wilpons took out a ton of loans to pay payroll and also took loans from Major League Baseball to basically afford their payroll because the Wilpons were hemorrhaging money because of the Madoff situation. And the Wilpons left all that debt that Steve Cohen purchased. He basically purchased a team that had a tremendous amount of debt. And guess what? He paid off that debt this year, and that money that was in debt was the team. It wasn't anything else. Again, he wasn't hemorrhaging money. He knew he was taking on all that debt. He paid off that debt that was associated with the team, not anything else, with the team. Where do you think that money's going to go? He's going to put it back into the team. It's already been talked about. If you read the article from the New York Post, once the whole thing with the whole casino thing, where he's trying to get a casino license and he's going to build hotels and all that other stuff that's going around Citi Field. He talked about that in the article. He says, yes, I paid off that debt because I want to put that back into the team. Again, is that into the payroll? Maybe not all of it. Obviously, it's the scouting. It's to, developmental situations, international scouting, all that other stuff. Maybe more amenities around Citi Field for the players and stuff like that. But he's going to put it back into the team. Is it necessarily all payroll? No. Yeah, well, Jay, I don't necessarily think they're going to focus on Ohtani. Will they make an offer? Yes. If they get Yamamoto, again, things change rather quickly, guys. We all know that, right? If plan A is Yamamoto, that's the start of plan A. You get Yamamoto, you can take a deep breath. Okay, Robert, but again, what does that matter? Because the Texas Rangers lost 100 games 2 years ago. But I see no problem of Jacob deGrom, Corey Seager, Simeon, all those guys signed with the Texas Rangers. Guess why they went there? Let's see. Let me think. Oh, right. Money. A team that lost 100 games, which the Mets haven't done since the early 60s. Okay, that's fine. But again, the Mets had a bad season. All right. They won 100 games 2 years ago, right? Was that just a fluke, or was that a situation where Scherzer was constantly hurt, Verlander wasn't ready to go until May, and every one of their players that were the part of their core had a down season? And again, the Dodgers are the favorite. Again, I don't know when you came in here, Robert, but I've always said that the Dodgers are the favorite. But what I was talking about was to say that the Mets aren't going to make an offer or be a top 3, top 4 team that is a candidate to land Ohtani is silly, because they have the richest owner in baseball. If Steve Cohen wants to be the biggest dick to every owner, guess what he's going to do? Outspend everybody for Ohtani. Do I think he's going to do that? No. But to think he's not going to make a big offer is silly. Do I think Yamamoto is priority number 1? Absolutely. The Mets need pitching. Ohtani's not going to help us this year. Yeah, the December 3rd to the 6th is is the winter meetings. No, I agree with that, Mike. Again, that's why teams like the Yankees, teams like the Mets always pay a premium to land a free agent because of the tax situation. But again, we're talking again when it comes to then he's going to the Dodgers, who have a higher tax rate than New York. So that means the Dodgers have to overspend everybody to get Ohtani. So why is nobody talking about the tax situation with the Dodgers, but are talking about it with the 2 New York teams? You see how silly that sounds? A tax rate that is higher in California than it is in New York. So you just proved my point. Now, Texas, obviously no tax, state tax. But again, we're talking about winning. Robert just talked about winning. Now, the Rangers just won a World Series. That's great. But again, deGrom went to a 76, 77 win team, Rangers, and Corey Seager and Simeon signed with a 100-loss team. Okay, Robert, that's fine. And I'm assuming you're a Dodger fan. Okay, again, I'm not talking about the tax rate. Somebody brought it up. And that's the whole point. Again, the Dodgers are the favorites. There's many reasons for that. They're a good run organization. They've been winning divisions. They did win a World Series. Again, I don't see that as a real World Series. I don't even care if the Mets won the 2020 World Series. I'd be ashamed of myself winning the 2020 World Series where there was a neutral site and no fans for the majority of all the season and most of the playoffs. Right? But again, Robbie, you're not facing facts. All you're doing is falling into the narrative of the lazy reporters that continue to be lazy in their reporting. Because 3 weeks ago, all you ever heard was, oh, the Dodgers, Ohtani, West Coast, obviously, clearly the Giants are going to be in on them. The Rangers are going to be in on them and all that. Yeah, absolutely. We all know that. And then slowly but surely, closer and closer to the winter meetings, all of a sudden the Cubs. Last time I checked, the Cubs are not on the West Coast. Yeah, John, I don't think Seattle is going to go after him at all. And if you just watched, I don't know if you guys watched Foul Territory on YouTube, but Ken Rosendahl just spoke about it. Seattle is out on Ohtani. It's been reported multiple times throughout multiple reporters, beat reporters in Seattle, saying that the Rangers are not going to be in on Ohtani. Again, I think it's stupid. I mean, they're West Coast, but they just spoke about it. No, right wing, I agree with that. But I'm not going to sit here waving my pom-poms if I'm a Dodgers fan and talk about the 2020 World Series like it was an actual – again, a Dodger team who constantly chokes in the playoffs in a 162-game season when they're considered the favorite to win the World Series almost every year and usually making the playoffs being the best team in baseball, and they fail every year in a 162-game season. Yet again, they proved it again. So that's where we're looking at here, guys. Again, we all believe the Dodgers are the favorite to land Ohtani. But how many times have we talked about a team being a favorite for a player, and then there's always one team, not saying it's the Mets, but there's always one team, and watch it be the Cubs, that come out of nowhere and say, and give a massive contract offer, and he goes to that team. We see it all the time. Yeah, Robert, again, you're twisting the narrative here. I mean, then he's not going to many other teams because the teams that are actually in on him, most of them have Japanese players or had Japanese players at some point. Again, of course they're going to say that, but we all know that Yamamoto is going to take the most money. Again, this goes back to the same thing, guys. There's 1% of players that take less money to go to a team. What team? What player takes less money to go to a team? A player that goes to their team that they were previously on before becoming a free agent. Aaron Nola had offers that was considered more than what the Phillies offered. He went back to the Phillies. Aaron Judge was supposedly getting more money from the San Diego Padres and took less money to go back to the Yankees. That's when it happens. Every other free agent, big free agent, I'm not talking about the low free agents, that nobody cares about. The big free agents always take the most money when they're not going back to the team they were previously on before they became a free agent. Aaron Judge and Aaron Nola. Aaron Nola had more offers that was more money and more years. He went back to Philadelphia for less money, the team that he was already on. Same thing with Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge was supposedly getting more money from the Giants, at least another year from the Giants, and more money in the same amount of years with the Padres. No, muted. That's not true. The Padres were willing to offer him $400 million. The Giants were the favorites because of the fact that Judge wanted to go back to his hometown. But even that wasn't enough. Because all he wanted was the Yankees to go one more year and he would take less money. And he did. Again, especially the biggest free agent of all time in free agent history is not going to take less money to go anywhere. I don't care where it is. If the Dodgers offer $550 million, I don't expect the Mets to get him for $500 million. No, Robert, that's not true. Yu Darvish took the most money to go to the Cubs, right? Yu Darvish took more money. Masahiro Tanaka took more money. Hideki Matsui took more money. Kodai Senga took more money. All of them took more money. Ohtani took the most money from the Angels, who never make the playoffs. So don't tell me that a player doesn't want to come to a team that is, I'm not saying he's going to the Pirates. Come on. He's going to a team that has, Ohtani took less money. No, he didn't. Find out. He didn't want to come to the East Coast. He didn't even take a meeting with the Yankees. So we know the East Coast teams were out. Had nothing to do with money. It had to do with location. The Dodgers offered him a crazy amount, but Moreno paid him more. Again, please do your research. Look at it. Just search it. The Angels offered him more money with less years. The Dodgers offered him more years with less money. It is all about the money. It is. With all these big free agents, it's always about more money. Unless Ohtani is going back to the Angels, he's not taking less money to go elsewhere. Yeah, exactly my point. That's why he's going to take the most money. Yeah, muted. Exactly. But why was that? Because we knew Mike Hampton didn't like New York and went to the Rockies because of schools. Yeah, but we all knew that. But it's not like the West Coast teams were the Pirates and the Marlins going after him. He knew he was going to get paid on the West Coast. It was a preference, knowing that teams like the Mariners, the Giants, the Dodgers, the Angels, all were in on him. That was the point. He knew he was going to get paid. Again, Mandor, that's a good point. Ohtani was a restricted free agent because of his age. Because he was over 26, 27. That was the idea. So Ohtani couldn't get the biggest offer like Yamamoto can because of his age. So that was a good point. So the fact of the matter is, Ohtani couldn't get what he was worth because he was a restricted free agent because of his age. Yeah, again, that's the other reason too. It's not like Ohtani made $175 million or $200 million. He made a decent amount, but he's not. Well, yeah, Duran. I mean, I think a lot of us would prefer Soto over Ohtani because he's 25 years old. But you also got to trade prospects, at least if you want them now, to get Soto. So that's what I'm saying. Like I said, is Ohtani coming to the Mets? Look, I ain't betting my house on it. I ain't betting my bank account on it. I tell you that. But it's going to be very interesting. Well, again, that's the other thing too. But again, remember, Ohtani was willing to play left field, right field a lot, outfield a lot as well. So that's the point. Well, yeah, that is the other thing too. Yes. All right, guys. So winter meetings is about a week and a half away. And hopefully we actually get a winter meetings that is worth watching. The last couple of years have actually sucked. So hopefully, again, there's been a couple of reports that a lot of people believe that Ohtani is going to make his decision during the winter meetings. Again, I think we all hope that happens because what it does, it solves a lot of conversation and a lot of conversation that, you know, what teams actually need, right? There's only a handful of teams in on Ohtani. Right? There's only a handful of teams in on Ohtani. Once he signs, those handful of teams that lost out on Ohtani has more of a direct understanding. All right, we can't get him. He like the Mets. Ohtani will clearly be a DH for the Mets and everywhere he goes, at least this year, right? And mostly probably throughout his contract. So with that said, that's where you'd be like, all right, the Mets know they're not getting Ohtani. Wherever needed a bat in their lineup, can't get Ohtani, great. Now we have to look at other bats that are, Yankees are going to look at Cody Bellinger. The Mets are going to look at the 5 or 6 DH targets that are out there, right? Yamamoto, again, Rob just said it. I brought it up earlier in the stream. Yamamoto is going to be speaking on Zoom or, through Zoom over this week on all the teams interested in him. And then right during the winter meetings is going to when he's going to make his decision on the finalist of teams that he's interested in. And then after, which has already been reported, after the winter meetings is when he's going to make a decision. So we got Zoom meetings this week for all the teams that are interested in Yamamoto, which is probably about 10, maybe more on Yamamoto. And then he's going to make his final list of teams he's interested in going to during the winter meetings. And then after the winter meetings is when teams are going to go to him with his free agent on the West Coast, because his free agent, Joel Wolf, is associated with an agency on the West Coast. So teams are going to go to him to do a presentation to get his services. So hopefully not too far after the winter meetings, I would think about a week or so afterwards, he's going to make a decision. Maeda was you know what? I totally forgot. I know Maeda was supposed to be close to signing with somebody. I don't remember who that was, but it was somebody close. So with that said, guys, tomorrow I'm going to look to do an MLB Hot Stove. It's about 50-50, but look for the stream to pop up. MLB Hot Stove, I'm going to try to get either one of the guys from the roundtable or somebody else to be a guest on the MLB Hot Stove to talk about what's going on. And we're going to talk more about trades, more about people that are on the trade block. We're thinking about Soto. We're thinking about Corbin Burns, Dylan Cease, Tyler Glasnow, and all those other guys that are going to Maeda, thank you. Tigers, thank you. Kenta Maeda was close to signing with the Tigers. I think Rosendahl popped it up. So, yes. So, with that said, before I go, big win for my Michigan Wolverines against Ohio State, on the right track to being into the number 2 spot in the playoff spot. And that was a big win for Michigan. Played outstanding, played really good against Ohio State in the big house in Michigan, in Ann Arbor. That's my college. So that is my team going forward. Hopefully they don't have a big old hiccup against TCU, which won't be in the playoffs. But it's looking like Washington, who just beat Washington State, has a really good chance of being a 4 seed or a 3 seed, depending on what they're going to do. But it looks like the playoff most likely is going to be set for the college football playoffs. So go Michigan, go blue. Everybody, thank you for watching another MLB free agent frenzy. Only one top 20 free agent has signed. That is Aaron Nola to the Phillies. We got Lance Lynn, Kyle Gibson to the Cardinals. White Sox, Paul DeJong, and the Atlanta Braves signing Reynaldo Lopez. That has been your signings as of right now. There's been a couple of small minor league signings that aren't really big news, but has happened that aren't really significant. But hopefully next week we get a lot more rumors, a lot more information that we can take into the winter meetings going into December. So with that said, guys, enjoy your weekend. Hopefully I'll pop in tomorrow for MLB Hot Stove. Look out for that stream. I'll be posting videos as well. I'm probably going to post a video, something about Juan Soto or Ohtani over the next day or two. So with that said, everybody have a great day. As always, baseball fans, have a great night. Met fans, let's go Mets. I'll see you next time. Have a great night, guys.